The accidental ambassador. The quantum linguistics laboratory at MIT was eerily quiet at 3 a.m., just the way Dr. Zoe Nakamura preferred it. Her colleagues called her brilliant but difficult, a diplomatic way of saying she understood alien language patterns better than human social cues. Tonight, that suited her fine. The quantum resonance chamber hummed with energy as she calibrated the final settings. Recording test sequence 47B, she murmured into her tablet. Testing the hypothesis that quantum fluctuations affect translation patterns in non-terrestrial communication systems. Zoe adjusted her glasses and checked the oscillation patterns. Perfect. She'd been studying the strange signal captured from the Kepler 438 system for months, convinced it contained linguistic patterns rather than random cosmic noise. If she was right, this could be the breakthrough in xenolinguistics the scientific community had been waiting for. The chamber's blue glow intensified as she initiated the sequence. Standard procedure. She'd done this 46 times before. But test 47B proved decidedly non-standard when the quantum resonance chamber emitted a high-pitched whine, followed by a blinding flash that engulfed the lab. When Zoe's vision cleared, the laboratory was gone. In its place stood a vast cathedral-like chamber with walls that seemed to be made of living crystal. Geometric patterns pulsed with inner light, and the ceiling, if it could be called that, opened to a violet sky dotted with 3 moons. "That's not MIT," Zoe whispered, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. She clutched her tablet to her chest, a useless shield against whatever had just happened. Her scientific mind raced through possibilities: hallucination, quantum displacement, or perhaps she'd simply fallen asleep at her desk. The last theory evaporated when a door that wasn't a door, more like a vertical pool of quicksilver, parted, and a figure entered. He, if he was the appropriate pronoun, stood nearly 7 feet tall. His skin was the color of burnished platinum with subtle iridescent patterns that shifted as he moved. His features were almost human, but with an otherworldly symmetry that made Zoe's artist mother would have wept to capture. Most striking were his eyes, luminous violet irises surrounded by silver instead of white. "You're early," he said in perfect English, his voice melodic and resonant. Zoe blinked. "I'm, what?" "Early," he repeated, approaching with fluid grace. "The probability calculations indicated your arrival in 3 cycles, yet here you are." A smile played at his lips. "Humans continue to defy our predictions." Fascinating. Zoe's scientific training kicked in, overriding her fear. "You were expecting me?" "Specifically me?" "A human quantum linguist," he clarified. The specifics were less certain. "Who are you?" Zoe demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. "And where am I?" He executed a gesture that was unmistakably a bow, despite its alien grace. "I am Kalen, second heir to the Lemurian Empire. You stand in the crystalline citadel on Lumar Prime." He paused, studying her reaction. "And you are very far from home, Dr. Nakamura." The fact that he knew her name should have terrified her, but Zoe was too busy processing the implications. "Lemurian Empire? That's not possible. We've catalogued every inhabited system within 500 light-years of Earth." Kalen's laughter was like wind chimes. "Your species' confidence is charming. You've catalogued what you can see, Dr. Nakamura. The Lemurian Empire exists, adjacent to your reality." "Adjacent?" Zoe clutched her tablet tighter. "You're claiming interdimensional existence?" "I'm not claiming anything. I'm stating a fact." He gestured, and a holographic display materialized between them, showing complex mathematical equations. Your quantum resonance technology accidentally synchronized with our dimensional frequency. A remarkable achievement, if unintentional. Zoe studied the equations, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her disorientation. The mathematics were familiar yet extended beyond anything in human theoretical physics. "This is impossible," she murmured, but her eyes told her otherwise. A distant chime echoed through the chamber, and Kalen's posture stiffened. "We have little time. The Imperial Guard will be here soon for the daily inspection. If they find you..." He didn't finish the thought. "What happens if they find me?" Zoe asked, suddenly aware that she might be in danger. "My mother, Empress Neareth, has strict protocols regarding dimensional interlopers." His expression darkened. "Protocols I find unnecessarily harsh." Before Zoe could ask for clarification, Kalen pressed something cool and metallic into her palm. "This will mask your quantum signature temporarily. Keep it with you at all times." He guided her toward a concealed alcove in the crystalline wall. "Wait here until I return." "Wait." Zoe caught his arm, surprised by the warm, almost electric sensation of his skin. "Why are you helping me?" Kalen's luminous eyes met hers. "Because my people are dying, Dr. Nakamura. And you, or more specifically, your species' unique quantum properties, may be our last hope." With that cryptic statement, he sealed the alcove, leaving Zoe alone with her racing thoughts and a growing suspicion that her accidental arrival might not have been an accident at all. The next 12 hours were a crash course in alien anthropology. From her hiding place, which turned out to be Kalen's private study, Zoe observed Lemurian society through hidden viewports and data terminals Kalen had left accessible to her. The Lemurians were an ancient species, masters of quantum physics and dimensional engineering. Their civilization spanned multiple realities, with Lumar Prime as its crown jewel. But beneath the splendor of the crystalline citadel lay a desperate secret: the Lemurians were facing extinction. A quantum anomaly was slowly eroding their connection to their home dimension. Each generation was born with weaker bonds to reality, resulting in fewer births and an increasing number of Lemurians simply fading from existence. When Kalen finally returned, Zoe had dozens of questions. "Your people are experiencing quantum destabilization," she said without preamble. "But what does that have to do with humans?" Kalen's expression was a mixture of relief and admiration. "You've been busy." "I'm a scientist. Observation is what I do." He nodded toward the data terminal. "And what have you observed?" "That you brought me here deliberately." Zoe crossed her arms. "The quantum linguistics experiment I was running couldn't have accidentally synchronized with your dimension. Someone sent a signal specifically calibrated to my equipment." Kalen's silence confirmed her suspicion. "Why me?" she demanded. "Not you specifically," he admitted. "Any human quantum physicist might have sufficed. Your species possesses a unique quantum signature, a stability we Lemurians lack. And you didn't think to ask." Zoe felt anger building. "You just abducted me? Would your world governments have believed me? Would they have helped?" Kalen's voice carried an edge of desperation. "We've observed your species for centuries. You can barely cooperate among yourselves, let alone with beings from another dimension." Zoe couldn't entirely refute this point, but still. "So what's your plan? Study me like a lab specimen?" "No." Kalen's voice softened. "To propose an alliance. An exchange of knowledge that could benefit both our species." Before Zoe could respond, an alarm sounded, a haunting, melodic wail that made the crystal walls vibrate. Kalen's expression hardened. They've detected your quantum signature. The dampener must be failing. What does that mean? It means my mother's Imperial Guard is coming. He moved swiftly to a wall panel, pressing his palm against it. A hidden doorway appeared. This passage leads to the quantum observatory. I'll try to intercept the guards, convince them it was a false alarm. And if you can't? Kalen met her gaze, his violet eyes intense. Then remember what I've told you. The fate of my people may depend on it. He was gone before she could respond, leaving Zoe to navigate the secret passage alone. The observatory turned out to be a vast domed chamber filled with equipment that made her quantum resonance chamber look like a child's toy. At its center stood a swirling vortex of energy, contained within a complex array of crystalline prisms. Zoe approached cautiously, her scientific mind cataloging details even as her instincts screamed danger. The vortex was beautiful, awful, a tear in the fabric of reality that pulsed with cosmic energy. Magnificent, isn't it? Came a voice, cold and regal. Zoe spun to face a Lemurian woman whose bearing made Kalen look casual by comparison. She wore a crown of living crystal that seemed to grow from her temples, and her eyes were not violet but a deep, bottomless black. Empress Neareth, I presume, Zoe said, trying to keep her voice steady. The Empress approached, her movement so fluid she appeared to glide. And you are the human my son has been hiding. Her gaze was calculating. How disappointing that he chose one so ordinary. Your son was helping me get home, Zoe lied. My son has been conducting unauthorized quantum experiments for years, Neareth countered. Seeking ways to stabilize our dimensional decay. And now he brings a human into our most sacred spaces? She gestured, and Imperial guards materialized from hidden alcoves. His judgment has always been questionable. This confirms it. Mother. Kalen's voice rang out as he entered the observatory, flanked by more guards. This human is under my protection. Protection? Neretha's laugh was like ice cracking. You brought her here to use her. Let's not pretend otherwise. Kalen's expression flickered with guilt, confirming what Zoe had begun to suspect. Her accidental arrival had been engineered specifically by the prince. The human quantum signature could stabilize the dimensional anchor, Kalen argued. We've discussed this possibility for years. Discussed and rejected, Neareth countered. The process would kill the subject. Zoe felt ice in her veins. Kill? A temporary death, Kalen said quickly. Your consciousness would be preserved, transferred back to your body once the process completed. That's not how death works. Zoe backed away, but guards blocked her retreat. Neareth studied her with cold curiosity. My son has placed you in an impossible position, human. For that, I apologize. But now that you're here. She gestured to the guards. Take her to the quantum laboratory. Prepare her for the procedure. Mother, no. Kalen stepped forward, but guards restrained him as well. There are other methods we haven't tried. Your sentimentality is noted, my son. But the Empire's survival takes precedence over one human life. Neretha's gaze returned to Zoe. If it's any comfort, your sacrifice will ensure the survival of an entire civilization. As the guards led her away, Zoe caught a final glimpse of Kalen's face, anguished, apologetic, but with a flicker of determination that suggested this wasn't over. She hoped that determination included a rescue plan, because otherwise, Dr. Zoe Nakamura, brilliant xenolinguist and accidental ambassador, was about to become an unwilling martyr for an alien empire she'd only just discovered existed. The quantum bridge. Zoe Nakamura had experienced many strange things in her 32 years of life, a childhood in rural Japan followed by an academic career at MIT, decoding potential alien signals, and most recently, being transported to an interdimensional alien empire. But nothing had prepared her for the cold sterility of a Lemurian laboratory where she was about to become an unwilling test subject. The chamber was a perfect dome of pale blue crystal. In its center stood an apparatus that reminded her of Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man sketch, if da Vinci had designed it while having a psychedelic episode. Crystalline arms extended from a central pillar, each ending in what looked disturbingly like surgical implements. "The quantum extraction will begin shortly," announced a Lemurian technician, their voice devoid of either cruelty or compassion. "The procedure has a 12.7% survival rate for the subject. You should feel honored, your quantum signature will save countless Lemurian lives." "Lucky me," Zoe muttered, testing the restraints that held her wrists and ankles. They weren't physical bonds but fields of energy that tingled unpleasantly against her skin. As the technicians busied themselves with final preparations, Zoe forced herself to think rationally. Kalen had betrayed her, yes, but she'd seen genuine regret in those strange violet eyes. More importantly, she'd glimpsed determination. If she could just buy some time. The main technician approached with something that looked uncomfortably like a crown of thorns made from living crystal. "This will extract your consciousness before the physical procedure begins. It may cause discomfort." "Wait," Zoe said quickly. "Don't I get a last request? Isn't that standard protocol for sacrificial victims across the multiverse?" The technician paused, looking genuinely confused. "I don't believe we have such a protocol." "Well, you should," Zoe pressed. "It's basic decency. Even condemned prisoners on Earth get a last meal." The technician consulted with a colleague in Rapid Lemurian, a language of musical tones and clicks that Zoe had begun to recognize patterns in despite her dire situation. Her linguist's mind never stopped working. "What would this last request entail?" the technician finally asked. "I want to see your historical archives," Zoe said, the request coming to her instinctively. "If I'm going to die for your species, I should at least understand your history." The technicians exchanged glances. "The archives are restricted to royal scholars." "Then consider it academic courtesy between scientists," Zoe countered. "Professional respect before you kill me." "More consultation in Lemurian, then, we will consult the Empress." As they stepped away to communicate with higher authorities, a panel in the wall silently slid open behind them. A tall Lemurian slipped into the room with predatory grace, moving without sound despite his considerable size. Unlike the platinum skin of the royal family, this Lemurian skin was deeper, almost bronze, with geometric patterns that pulsed with subtle light. A warrior caste, Zoe guessed, based on the data she'd accessed in Kalen's study. He dispatched the technicians with efficient, almost gentle precision, pressure points rather than violence, before approaching Zoe. "Dar. Nakamura," he said, his voice a rumbling bass. "I am Thale, captain of Prince Kalen's personal guard. I'm here to extract you." Ironic choice of words, Zoe said, eyeing the unconscious technicians. "Where's Kalen?" Thale's expression darkened as he deactivated her restraints. "The prince has been imprisoned for treason. Attempting to prevent your sacrifice was considered politically unacceptable." Zoe rubbed her wrists as she sat up. "He got himself arrested for me? After kidnapping me in the first place? That's confusingly gallant." The prince's methods are unorthodox, but his intentions are honorable, Thale said, handing her a small device similar to the quantum dampener Kalen had given her earlier. This improved version will mask your signature for approximately 6 hours. We must use that time wisely. To do what, exactly? Escape? Zoe asked, attaching the device to her wrist. That would be logical, Thale agreed. But the prince believed you might choose differently once you understood the full situation. He offered her something that looked like a crystalline tablet. This contains access codes to the royal archives, not the public historical records you requested as a distraction, but the true archives. Zoe's scientific curiosity flared despite her situation. And what am I looking for in these archives? The origin of our quantum instability, Thale said grimly. The prince believes it is not a natural phenomenon as we've been taught. You're saying someone did this to your people deliberately? Zoe asked, horrified. That is the prince's theory. One that got him imprisoned. Thale moved toward the door. I can give you 3 hours in the archives before we must attempt to free the prince. After that, our window for escape closes. Zoe hesitated only briefly. Take me to these archives. If I'm going to risk my life helping Kalen, I want to know exactly what I'm getting into this time. The royal archives of Lumar Prime were housed in a crystalline spire that seemed to defy physics. Inside, data crystals lined the walls from floor to ceiling, each containing millennia of Lemurian knowledge and history. With Thale standing guard, Zoe used Kalen's access codes to dive into the restricted sections. Her tablet interface translated the Lemurian language in real time, another gift from the prince, she realized. What she discovered in those archives shook her to her core. The Lemurians hadn't always been interdimensional beings. 10,000 years ago, they were a corporeal species much like humans, inhabiting a single planet in a single dimension. Their evolution into energy crystal hybrids came after a catastrophic event, a war with another ancient species called the Vorax. The Vorax had tried to invade Lemurian space through artificial wormholes. In desperation, the Lemurians developed technology to shift their entire civilization partially out of phase with normal spacetime, a dimensional bubble that would protect them from the invaders. It worked, but with devastating consequences. Cut off from their original dimensional frequency, the Lemurians began to destabilize over generations. What was meant to be temporary salvation became a slow-motion extinction. They've been looking for a cure for 10,000 years, Zoe murmured, scrolling through research attempts and failed experiments. Thousands of species had been studied for their quantum properties, but none matched the stability of the original Lemurian genome, lost in the desperate phase shift. Then she found Kalen's private research files. He had discovered something remarkable. Human DNA contained a quantum resonance pattern remarkably similar to the original Lemurian genome. Humans, for reasons no one understood, possessed exceptional dimensional stability, an anchor to reality that the Lemurians desperately needed. But the Empress had rejected his findings. According to her official statements, the dimensional separation was natural evolution, not a technological accident. To suggest otherwise was to question 10,000 years of imperial dogma. She's been suppressing this research, Zoe realized aloud. But why? If this could save her people. Because acknowledging the truth would mean acknowledging that the imperial bloodline made a catastrophic mistake, Thale said from behind her. The dimensional shift was ordered by Empress Neritha's ancestor. The imperial line has maintained for millennia that it was ascension, not desperation. Zoe turned to him. Pride is causing the extinction of your entire species. Pride is a universal constant, Dr. Nakamura, Thale said grimly. But there's more. The prince discovered ancient texts suggesting a way to reverse the process, a quantum bridge that could return our people to proper dimensional alignment without requiring sacrifice. But it would require admitting the original mistake, Zoe concluded. And surrendering much of the Empress's power, Thale added. Our evolved state gives the royal family abilities others lack. True dimensional alignment would democratize those abilities. Zoe studied the final pages of Kalen's research. According to this, my quantum signature could serve as a template, a bridge back to proper dimensional frequency. But it wouldn't require my death, just my participation. Which is precisely why we need to rescue the prince, Thale said. He alone knows how to initialize the process correctly. Zoe stood, her decision made. Then let's go get him. I'm tired of being a pawn in someone else's game, time to become a player. The quantum prison was unlike any incarceration facility Zoe could have imagined. Prisoners weren't held behind bars or walls, but in quantum stasis, frozen between moments of time. From the outside, they appeared as crystalline statues, faces caught in expressions of surprise or resignation. The royal wing is this way, Thale whispered, leading her through shadowy corridors. They had borrowed technician uniforms, but the disguise wouldn't fool anyone looking closely. They found Kalen in a private chamber, his crystalline form gleaming under the soft purple light. Unlike the other prisoners, his expression was serene, almost expectant, as if he'd anticipated his own imprisonment. How do we release him? Zoe asked. Thale handed her a crystal key. This will disrupt the stasis field. But the moment he's free, alarms will sound throughout the citadel. We'll have minutes at most to reach the quantum observatory. Zoe hesitated, the key cool in her palm. When he's free, I want answers, real ones this time. No more manipulation. That is between you and the prince, Thale said. But I believe he will honor your request. Taking a deep breath, Zoe inserted the key into the base of Kalen's stasis field. The crystal surrounding him vibrated, then cracked like an egg, releasing a flood of energy that momentarily blinded her. When her vision cleared, Kalen stood before them, looking slightly disoriented but very much alive. Zoe, he said, her name melodic in his alien voice. You came back for me. Don't sound so surprised, she retorted. You seem to have planned everything else about our relationship. An alarm wailed in the distance, cutting off his response. Explanations later, Thale urged, already moving toward the exit. We have 3 minutes before the Imperial Guard seals the prison. They ran through the crystalline corridors, Thale leading the way with Kalen and Zoe close behind. The quantum observatory was their destination, the only place with equipment powerful enough to attempt the dimensional realignment. My mother will have doubled the guard at the observatory, Kalen said as they raced through a hidden passage. She knows that's where I'd go. Then we need a distraction, Zoe said, an idea forming. And I think I know just the thing. The observatory was indeed heavily guarded, 12 Imperial sentinels stood at attention around its perimeter. Inside, Empress Neerith supervised technicians preparing the quantum vortex for some unknown purpose. She's attempting to stabilize the dimension herself, Kalen whispered from their hiding place in a maintenance tunnel. Without a proper template, it will only accelerate our decay. Then it's time for my distraction, Zoe said, removing her quantum dampener. Ready? Before either Lemurian could stop her, she'd slipped away, circling around to approach the observatory from the main entrance. As soon as her quantum signature was exposed, alarms blared throughout the citadel. Human quantum signature detected, announced an automated system. All security personnel converge on Sector 12. The guards at the observatory tensed, torn between maintaining their posts and investigating the alert. Empress Neerith emerged from the observatory, her face a mask of cold fury. "Find the human," she commanded. "Bring her to me alive." As guards rushed toward Zoe's position, Kalen and Thale slipped into the observatory through the unguarded maintenance tunnel. By the time Zoe was captured, deliberately allowing herself to be, they had seized control of the facility. The Empress herself dragged Zoe into the observatory, only to find her son standing at the main control console, with Thale guarding the entrance. "Step away from the controls," Kalen, Neerith demanded. "This foolishness has gone on long enough." "I've activated the original restoration protocol, Mother," Kalen said calmly. "The one buried in our archives for 10,000 years. The one you tried to erase. You would undo our evolution." Neeritha's voice was deadly quiet. "Return us to primitive corporeal forms?" "I would save our people from extinction," Kalen countered. "The phase shift was never meant to be permanent. Our ancestors knew it would eventually kill us. Our ancestors were cowards, fleeing from a war they could have won." Neerith shouted, her composure cracking. "I have maintained our purity, our power. At the cost of our future," Kalen said softly. "Look around you, Mother. Each generation, fewer children are born. Those who survive fade earlier. We are ghosts already." Neerith turned to Zoe, still held between two guards. "And you think this human holds the answer? One primitive specimen from an unaligned world?" "Not just me," Zoe said. "Humanity. Our quantum signature is compatible with your original state. We can serve as a bridge back to dimensional stability." "She speaks the truth, Empress," Thale added. "I have verified the prince's research myself." Neeritha's expression hardened. "And if I refuse to allow this regression? Then in approximately 217 years, the last Lemurian child will be born," Kalen said with quiet certainty. "And 300 years after that, our species will be extinct. Is your pride worth that price, Mother?" A tense silence filled the observatory. Around them, the quantum vortex pulsed with increasing instability, as if responding to the emotional charge in the room. Finally, Neerith released Zoe's arm. "What does this process require?" "A willing human participant," Kalen said, looking at Zoe. "Not as a sacrifice, but as a template. The process is non-destructive, but not without risk." Zoe met his gaze steadily. "You should have just asked in the first place. Would you have believed me? Would you have come willingly to an alien dimension on the word of a voice in your quantum resonance chamber?" His violet eyes held genuine regret. "I made a choice. If you hate me for it, I understand." "I don't hate you," Zoe said. "But next time you need a human quantum template to save your civilization, try sending an email first." A surprised laugh escaped him, the first genuine emotion she'd seen from any Lemurian besides Kalen. "There won't be a next time," Neerith said, her regal bearing returning. "If we proceed with this, it is final. Our people return to corporeal form, dimensionally aligned with the rest of the universe." She looked at her son. "The power of the imperial line will diminish. But our people will live," Kalen said simply. After another long moment, Neerith nodded once. "Proceed." The quantum bridge process was elegant in theory, terrifying in practice. Zoe stood at the center of the observatory, surrounded by crystalline instruments that hummed with power. Her quantum signature would serve as a tuning fork, synchronizing with the original Lemurian dimensional frequency encoded deep in their genetic memory. The process will create momentary quantum entanglement between your consciousness and our collective memory, Kalen explained, adjusting the final settings. Your human perspective, your certainty in a single reality, will anchor us. Will it hurt? Zoe asked, only half joking. Kalen's expression softened. I truly don't know. No one has attempted this in 10,000 years. Comforting, Zoe muttered. But she took her position nonetheless. As the process began, energy spiraled around her, ribbons of light dancing across her skin, soaking into her cells. It didn't hurt, exactly, but she felt stretched, as if her consciousness was expanding beyond her physical form. Suddenly, she was everywhere and nowhere. She saw the Lemurian civilization as it once was, flesh and blood beings working in harmony with their crystal technology. She witnessed the terrible war that drove them between dimensions, felt their desperation and fear. 10,000 years of history flowed through her in an instant. And in that moment of connection, something unexpected happened. The Lemurians didn't just receive her quantum stability, they received something of her humanity as well. Her curiosity, her adaptability, her capacity for both reason and emotion. When Zoe awoke, she lay on a bed of what felt like living moss, soft and supportive. Kalen sat beside her, but he looked different. His skin was still pale but no longer metallic. His eyes remained violet, but now with white sclera instead of silver. He looked more human, yet still distinctly alien. It worked, she whispered, her voice hoarse. Beyond our expectations, he confirmed, helping her sit up. The dimensional realignment is complete. My people are corporeal again, anchored in proper spacetime. You look different, she observed. An unexpected side effect, he said with a smile. The quantum bridge worked both ways. We gained stability from your human template, but we retained some of our dimensional adaptations. And humans gained something as well. What do you mean? Zoe asked, suddenly alert. The quantum bridge wasn't just one way. Your species now carries a trace of Lemurian dimensional awareness. Not enough to destabilize you, he added quickly, seeing her alarm. But enough to expand possibilities. Are you saying humans can now perceive multiple dimensions? Not yet, Kalen said. But over generations? The potential is there. Our peoples are linked now, in the most fundamental way possible. Zoe tried to process this. So I not only saved your civilization but potentially changed the course of human evolution? All because I stayed late in the lab one night?